I come to you every Wednesday here on the Blue Stream on Fishbowl Radio Network. Here with Gary, and I have an exciting guest again this week. Last week I had a great guest. This week I have another one. The week before that I had another one. So I'm just blessed to be able to keep going. Well, before I start, I have to talk about Arlington Museum of Art. Don't forget to come see that Keith Haring exhibit. It will be here till September 15th. The title is Against All Odds, so please come, please come. And also, ladies and gentlemen, mothers and fathers, children, we have our third annual Books, Burgers, and More coming up September 7th. At the Eunice Activity Center here in Arlington. If you're an author, we still have vendor tables available. If you are a parent and you are looking for some exceptional children's books, if you are an avid reader of romance, we have all areas of publishing out there, so please, please come. Well, I have a great guest today. She is amazing. Just in talking to her, I learned some things. So you have you have trouble today. You have two Marys. You have me, Mary Payton, and my guest today is Miss Mary Bruce, owner of the Green Chemical Store here in Dallas. And I want her to talk about herself. I want to talk about her store, but she was a military spouse, so we have something in common, and that's how I met her. But we'll talk about that as we go. Mary, will you please introduce yourself?
Good evening. This is Mary Bruce.
So, can you tell us a little bit about you before we start talking about the Green Chemical Store?
Well, I'm originally from northern Minnesota, a girl from the sticks, as they say up there, and all the pine trees and the evergreen trees. And my family, mother and father were from that area as well. They grew up on the Red River. Farm families. My dad from Minnesota, my mother from North Dakota. And then I moved to the southern part of the state half of my life before graduating from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was 19, I decided to leave Minnesota. It was very, very cold up there. And the jobs were drying up in the late 70s. And I just left and came to Texas. That's where the jobs were at. So the big talk was on college campus.
Well, a lot of those cities up in that area and other parts of North United States are trying to get young people to move back because so many of them moved to the southern states. They moved to California because that's where the big jobs were.
Correct. And that's why I left as well.
Mm-hmm. But now they're trying to get people to come back, and people are going back in droves because they're putting out incentives and stuff. I was telling my son Taylor he needs to consider doing some of that because they don't have any kids. They're still young. They have a house here, but it's virtually paid for, and could go do that for a little while, then come back and be in their house. But
cost of living is affordable,
Mm-hmm.
no state taxes, and they're
Mm-hmm.
probably going to get paid a decent wage, so it would make sense economically for them to go.
So it's always something for people to think about. Always, always. But tell us a little bit about the Green. Let me make sure I say it right. The Green Chemical Store. What is the Green Chemical Store?
Well, my career in outside sales is in specialty chemicals, and it started in April of 1980. I met my husband in 79, July of 79,
Mm-hmm.
and we married in January of 1980, and he had a little janitorial mop and broom supply company. And he was the outside sales rep. I did the inside, and then we switched roles. He gave me his 6 accounts. I picked up the sales bag. He taught me the pitch on an industrial degreaser, which is like a 409 or a Fabuloso or a Fantastic type chemical. And the man never made another outside sales call in 27 years that I worked for him. I built his sales team he did the inside work, I did the outside work, I wrote his training manuals. And for me, being in outside sales, it was like a license to fill my curiosity. I would go into the basement of any building, a major medical center, a Class A office building, a corporate headquarters, a university or college, and I would ferret out the maintenance department and talk to the supervisor, and then I sell the Nordstroms of drain cleaners to kind of sum it up. Not everything is green at the green chemical store, but I do know how to follow those manufacturers with the formulations that do have green formulas. Or the manufacturing groups come to me because of my longevity in the industry. I've had reps call me up to say, hey, this would be a fit for your green line. And it was, like a coconut fiber absorbent for spills or WD-40 that's gone green, and it works. And so I do have some really cool formulas that are green, and then I've got a regular line of product as well. But I work for my husband, my late husband. He was a Vietnam veteran. And we raised 4 kids and built the business, and we had a lot of fun in those early years of building the business. Then I left our family business, went and did something totally different for 2 years. It was still connected to my customer base.
Yeah.
And then that business went out of business. I returned to my husband's chemical company, but while I was gone for 2 years, I hatched the Green Chemical Store. A certified woman-owned business, so I've got 4 certifications, regional, state, national, and federal, and I know how to go after those markets for what the government spending is about. And then really focus in on having a cool website for showcasing products. And at this point, I really need to build a sales team that wants to work for a small woman-owned business. Our market is great right now in facilities maintenance.
Okay, so if y'all hear that, look up the Green Chemical Store and see, check out their website and see if that's a fit for you. So I'm glad you put that out there because, like I say, this is your show. So, but now we spoke on the phone not long ago, and you were talking about some of the things that you do. Now, when you talk about the products that you sell or you pitch to these various facilities, can you give me an example of some of that?
Well, because I can sell formulas that are quite identical to my competitors, what I had to do early on in the game, when I started in 1980, being a female selling specialty chemicals, so I would go to very industrial facilities or down in these basements. Women weren't doing what I was. I was the pioneer sales lady out there. And so it was very male dominated. So I had to figure out how to separate myself from the pack. And of course, I come from a really good stock of people where integrity, honesty, hard work, industriousness meant a whole lot. So that showed. And I did more than my competitors would do. I do have some service levels on my products, like I specialize in biological waste degraders for kitchen drain line maintenance.
Now, what is that?
Well, they're injection pumps that dose every night in the wee hours 10 ounces of a live microbe. It's kind of like good probiotics that we have for our gut. It's for the commercial kitchen, and it eats up greasy waste. And it keeps the drain lines open. It keeps the bugs out, the odors down. And I've got a lot of injection systems around town. I've got a guy that goes and changes out the pails every 65 days. But the service level and the integrity that I deliver are above and beyond what my competitors do. And my customers know that I have a big heart and I'm always there. And then they call me to ask me for a solution on a maintenance issue. And that was my branding initiative early on, was making myself and the Green Chemical Store top of mind. If the guys had a maintenance issue, who are you going to call? And I would get the phone calls.
That's how you build the business. And this sounds like I'm not saying it's a specialty business, but it is. It really is, because I had never heard of this until we met when we were going through the We Vet training, and you started talking about what it was that you did, and I'm like, that's in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I made y'all the offer to come on the show, and you took me up on it. But you talk about microbes, you talk about science. What inspired you to start this company, or keep this company going? Well, the first company wasn't the green chemical store, was it?
No, it was working for my husband, but I didn't want to work for the guys anymore. I wanted to run the show. And I'm very big on product innovation. I know what my customers need and want, and then I want to give them exactly what they're expecting, but a little bit more, a little bit better.
Yep.
Make sure they've got their safety data sheets on file for chemicals in case they ever had an audit. Good organization in their chemical cupboards. Most sales reps don't care about that. They're in the building for their sale and out the door. So I don't operate like that. I just want to do more. But let's see. I just wanted to bring. I'm trying to bring alive the green world when it doesn't really matter on the mechanical side of building maintenance. Like there's a categorization for buildings, office buildings especially, or corporate headquarters called LEED, and that's leadership and engineering, energy and design for a building. And you have to maintain that certification. It's either a platinum level, gold, or silver, right down to the construction materials. In fact, every new building for the city of Dallas has to meet LEED silver. Now, when it comes to the maintenance guys, nobody's looking at what they're using for de-icers or lubricants or cleaners. Now, for housekeeping, yes, it matters what kind of glass cleaner they're using and what kind of disinfectant they're using, because that's how the building maintains their LEED certification. So I wanted to really be the one chemical supplier that was paying attention to what goes on for LEED buildings. I've had end users or even just prospects, when I tell them what I'm doing out here, they go, well, nobody else is doing that. And I go, right. So they want to talk, everybody's trying to put together their green program, and I'm trying to do the same thing and be somewhat of a leader in that industry. Right in the area where it doesn't really have to matter yet, but it is going to matter.
I think it will. You're right.
It is going to matter. And if anybody notices, I do go to Whole Foods a little bit to shopping. They don't have the best prices, but they have some things that I have to have there. And I've noticed, and they've got signs at their coffee counter, no more plastic straws. If people really understood what goes on at our landfills with waste, and how there's so much consumer materials going to the landfill that don't biodegrade, it's sad. And that has to be stopped. So good for Amazon and Whole Foods for taking that initiative, because they're getting complaints about where's my straw, and they don't have any plastic straws to give you. They have a new kind of a sipping lid. Now, my assumption will be Starbucks is right behind them.
Yes.
Of course, you could buy a plastic straw that's like really hard plastic and permanent, and you'd keep it and wash it. Kind of like a coffee cup. Well, that would be the right thing to do, and people just need to wake up and do the right thing with their waste. Composting is important. We don't have composting here in the Metroplex, but I do it anyway. I do it anyway because I'm thinking it's coming, and I'll be ready. And then my daughter lives in California, and then composting does matter there. So materials that biodegrade into the earth over a short period of time are what we have to work with. And, there's so much plastic out in the world that it really went whack and got out of hand. And we've got to get back on track and reuse and repurpose and recycle the materials that we put our hands on, and repackage and all that kind of. My husband used to complain about the top cupboard in the pantry shelf. It was all the reusable
Plastic.
containers from to-go food. They were just
Yep.
such beautiful plastic, and I did reuse every single bit of it.
Well, I keep mine in my pantry because, well, I haven't done a lot of cooking since I've been back, but when I would barbecue and people come over, I wanted them to have
That's
stuff
it.
to take food away in and not take my good Tupperware. Well, it's not Tupperware, but my good plasticware.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
my family will do that, and you're not going to argue because you want them to take food home. But what you said about the whole Starbucks thing, I'm not surprised. When I was in South Korea, what they did last summer was, if you were not taking the drink out of the restaurant, or the smoothie place or Starbucks or wherever, they did not give you a to-go cup. You got a reusable, like a coffee cup or a mug.
Okay.
That's
Good.
what you got your drinks
Good.
in.
Yeah.
And you had to sit there, finish drinking it, and then they would pick up and wash after you. But they stopped giving disposable drink cups if you were drinking inside of the restaurants and coffee shops and stuff like that.
And that has to happen everywhere.
It
Yeah.
does. It really, really, really does. But you look around and people want convenience. But I think a lot of that is starting to
Well,
change. A lot of that is
we
starting
need
to change.
People need to wake up and be aware and understand that way was not. It really wasn't a good way. It was a fast way.
Yes.
And fast and easy is not sure and steady or win the race.
Yes.
And we just need to get back to that sure and steady that's going to win the race in the long run. I would like to elaborate on what you said about coffee. I will not drink a hot beverage out of styrofoam. People do not realize what heat does to a petroleum product like styrofoam in your body. You are putting free radical cells.
Yep.
We should not be surprised at the amount of cancer that we have here in the States because of what we're putting in our bodies. And that goes for water bottles as well. Do not leave your plastic water bottle heated in the front of, the cup holder of your car, and then go in there and ice it down. That water contains free radical
that were
cells from
released.
that plastic that's leached into it.
Yeah. And that came out not too well.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago,
It
they
did.
started talking about
I remember.
don't leave your water bottles in your car when you go to the store. Take them out, put them in the house, and stuff like that, because of that heating of that plastic.
That plastic
affects that water. So,
and
but-
look how much plastic we have got.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish we would recycle more, especially plastic here in the Metroplex. Now, when I lived in Hawaii, you recycled plastic, you recycled glass, you recycled aluminum, because I can't say aluminum. You recycled all of that stuff, and you recycled for pay. But they don't do that here in the Metroplex. So, but I wish they would get to doing that again, or get to doing that in more places than, I think it's Ohio or Iowa or somewhere, California, Hawaii. It's only like 4 or 5 states that pay for, plastic and glass recycling. But, we've got to do better.
I think they pay for aluminum here.
Yes,
the city
they
of
do.
Dallas is trying to do pretty good with the recycling program. We've got our bin for
Yes.
recycling materials, and then there's third-party contracted waste disposal companies that go and pick up the recycled material. And I've been to those recycling facilities. What I mean, it's just eye-opening and jaw-dropping when you go into a all it is recyclables. It's not the other trash. There's just mountains and mountains of waste.
Yep. And hey, hopefully we can reuse it. Now, who are some of what type of customers do you have? Who are some of your customers? Because I know you're not just the run-of-the-mill type of company.
Well, I go to large corporations, so your Texas Instruments, your Raytheons, your Lockheed Martins, all your major medical centers, Texas Health Resources, so that would be Presbyterian Hospital System, Harris Methodist, Methodist Hospital, I'm trying to. Oh, UT Southwest Medical, which is our doctors teaching school. All those buildings, and there's large groups of maintenance staff that I go to. They're all located in one building, so I don't have to go to every building. I just go to their one location, and then I go to Class A office buildings and all of your universities and colleges. They have the physical plant.
Okay.
That do all the maintenance for the buildings. And once again, it's not custodial and janitorial, but on the mechanical side, the grounds maintenance side, these are the guys that take care of the air conditioning, the plumbing, the electrical, paint and carpentry, locks, security systems, fire alarm systems, and then grounds maintenance and landscaping as well. That's all under the facilities management, facilities maintenance group, and where I go. And then I go to private schools as well.
Okay.
And some big churches, depending on how large they are. So wherever there's a large organization, yeah, I'm usually there.
And that is awesome. Do you? I know you sell and you make sure they have their safety data sheets and stuff like that. But do you do any type of training or instruction to some of the leadership?
Yeah. I had a conversation today with Children's Medical Center. I have the same brine. It's a liquid pre-treatment for winter like TxDOT and NTTA use. I happen to be the only winter brine supplier in the Metroplex. I got into it reluctantly and accidentally back in 2014. That's a whole story. But my whole thing is this is a new area for the maintenance crew to apply a liquid before a winter event will hit to prevent the ice from bonding to the hard surface, because they're just used to throwing down granular and getting it to melt, and they'll have an easier time of that maintenance job, that ice, if they'll put down the brine. But there's a whole sweet spot, a lot of weather intel. It's a two-man operation. They've got to work maybe in the wee hours of the night, one guy driving a spreading vehicle, the other one jumping off and spraying down the stair steps or walkways with the liquid brine. That needs training. That means a lot of training. And I'm definitely there for that, because if they can't use that product right, it's going to make my brand look bad. Yeah. And then their job won't be done well, and it won't be done easy. And then they'll just think, okay, she didn't know what she was doing. Maybe we'll go to the next, or we'll never try this again. And then they go back to the old way. It's my responsibility to keep them on track for best practices.
Yeah. And see, in industry or in privately owned businesses, you don't hear the phrase you just said often, best practices. That's an education thing. Us teachers, we know that, educational best practices, training best practices. But it makes sense to do it because, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and I've gone through your website and we've talked on the phone, and that was the reason I came up with that question. Do you train people? Because you're getting new products all the time, aren't you? Or getting people wanting you to look at their products all the time.
I might have an uncommon definition of responsibility.
Yes.
I own it. And I have to know how to disseminate that training, that knowledge that I might have on how to work with something, or why I even considered bringing the product on. Yes. I have to get that to them in their minds, and work with them, even have the equipment. And with the liquid brine, we don't put the brine down, but we'll put water in their spray systems. Yes. And then we go to work. It's time consuming. It's kind of labor intensive. But once again, it's the responsibility that I have. And
it's necessary. Oh, Honey Bueno is on. Hey, honey. She's on the line looking at us. But, you think about it. So many companies just want to make that sale. Right. They just want to get the stuff out there and get the product out there. But I've got another it's my job. I have questions. I have another question. Have you ever come up with a organization that you could not find a product for, or they wanted a specific type of product, and you had to go outside of your sources to help?
No, The answer to that, and you're making me laugh because
Why?
now I remember out in Plano at the what was then the new EDS campus of multiple buildings, and there was a third-party management group in there doing the building maintenance, CBRE. And the guy that was the supply coordinator, and he bought the parts and all the stuff that the guys worked with, he ended up calling me Detective Mary.
Why?
Because if the product could be found, I would find it. Yeah. So, no, honestly, I can't think of an incident where, now maybe I didn't end up being the supplier of the product or a service, but I would make the referral.
Okay.
Yeah, to where the guys could get help with their problem. One time I remember a guy, sometimes the guys want to treat mosquitoes on a pond. Well, that's a
Okay.
little bit tricky. Or they want to put a blue dye into a certain decorative pond out there. Just unusual. Well, actually, it was a bank building that was asking me about how to treat some kind of an algae on water. And I pointed him in the direction of his landscaper, who was probably more of a horticulturist.
Yes, yes.
And gave him a whole bunch of food for thought on what to do to get the problem solved. It wasn't me. It wasn't a chemical as his solution. It was a different solution. So, and he was very appreciative of me pointing him in that direction. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is you provide that additional information, that additional push that, so your customers, as you say, won't go somewhere else or won't think that you can't help them out. And that's a great thing because so many people are like, well, let me just get you by. Let me just get you started. And I like the fact that you have operating procedures. You have all of that. You're not just in business to be in business.
Thank you.
You are a business. And that's why I learned so much from from being with the WeVet program, because you remember I said I accidentally found myself in business with the show and the books and stuff.
I remember that. Right.
And I'm getting better. I'm getting so much better. I'm taking so much that I learned from that program to heart and really, really working with it. But being a woman-owned business, well, let me back up just a second. When did you start the green store? The green chemical store.
Our state incorporation was December of 2009, and then I actively came out into my market in January of 2010.
So you're almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years old.
You got to
yeah.
celebrate that 10 years.
I will. Yeah.
Now, what were some of I'm not going to say struggles, but what were some of the things that you had to learn as you were opening your own business?
Well,
especially this one.
If you want to expand, and I know my market allowed for expansion of the business, and it would take more than just me doing it, because I started the business in a house in Wiley, Texas. It was affordable.
I know where Wiley is.
There. And then within a year, outgrew the house, came around onto 900 square feet of a little showroom, office, and warehouse off of FM 544 there in Wiley. And then we outgrew that in about a year and a half to 2 years when I got into that liquid brine business, because we had some winter events, and I really needed some warehousing capability then. Actually, the hardest part about having the business is staffing.
Okay.
Having people, they've got personal lives, ups and downs. I've had some very reliable, still reliable. I've got great people working for me now, but it's finding the right people and putting them in the right spot within the organization. And I'm on that track now for the inside of the company.
Okay.
Now I've got to work on the outside to get sales help. I've never really let go of that. I've got part-time sales help, but I really need to get 2 to 3 full-time salespeople out into the Fort Worth market, Waco, and then in Dallas as well. Our market will lend it. The economy is very good for what we do, what we provide, and budgets are, nice and healthy within facilities management. So,
so how big? you said Fort Worth, Waco, Wiley. So, about how big are you around here?
You know,
'Cause-
well, it's me and a couple of part-time salespeople
Mhm.
because of my longevity in the industry.
Yes.
I'll be starting my 40th year in
Really?
in this industry in April of 2020.
when did you
um,
start? When you were 12?
22.
You're
Yeah.
let me stop. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're so young.
So I've been out there a long time, and I know a lot of people.
It's great.
And a lot of my sales efforts for new business is somebody having a job change, and then they bring me on in,
Yes.
like Toyota and
Mhm,
Facebook, where I know people. You can't get into those places because of security
Yep.
so tight. So you've got to know somebody on the inside.
Mhm.
And that's been a real blessing for me, having good connections, networking, keeping
That's
those
great.
efforts up. So I'm in a lot of these facilities already,
Mhm.
but we have a big market here for Dallas Fort Worth, so it can afford 2 more salespeople here and 1 in Waco. Austin is great. Texas is just a great economy right now.
Mhm.
So, and I would really like to just run the sales department. I've got some plans for the business, let's say a year or so from now, where somebody
Great.
else will operate the inside. I'm not an inside operations financial administrative person. I do a pretty good job at that, but not really. It's not my skill set. I'm a master strategist in my market for
Yes.
my customers.
And you do what you do best,
Mhm.
and that's how I am. You're supposed to stay in your lane,
Exactly.
and I don't always do that, but I'm learning. I'm trying. But I mean, it sounds like you have just grown. You've grown out of spaces. You've moved spaces.
Well, I've grown
It's-
personally to be able
And that's
to
great.
grow, and actually just taking on the continuous change and growth, and not be stubborn, and I guess you could say be fearless about it.
Mhm.
My husband passed in 2016.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I have a new life ahead of me with all of that.
Mhm.
But I'm very dedicated to making a big success. And I had a lot of stops on my work lines after he passed as well. We had to close his 40-year company.
Oh.
So I had to help my daughter do a lot of that. She was the executrix of his business and everything. And she didn't know what to do with a warehouse full of inventory. So I've here just, it feels like in the last year, I've just kind of been freed up to really go out and create.
Yes.
And I'm going to stay on that track, and then have some new plans for maybe new ownership of the business, and then
Mhm.
I'll stay on in sales and just build a really cool sales department.
Mhm. Mhm. But sounds like you have built your brand
I have.
extremely, extremely well.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to make sure I do this before we go too much further. If someone wanted to, reach out to y'all, what is your website, Facebook page, whatever social media, whatever you have, to where people can contact you? Would you give us that information?
It's easy. It's the Green Chemical Store. .com, or just the Green Chemical Store. And we really don't have a store.
Yeah.
The name company was not available when I had to choose a domain for a website.
Yes.
But then I realized later down the road that store was the better fit, because when I was a kid, I had a little storefront, you could call it, at my grandmother's pantry
Mhm.
on her farm, for when the guys came in from the field to serve them water and cookies. And they were my customers in my mind. So it all came back around.
So you've been doing this since you were young.
I think so.
But that's okay.
Serving people.
Serving
Sure.
people.
Mhm.
Serving people. Now, as a female-owned business, you said you've built your brand, you've gotten connected. Think back to when you first started this. What kind of information would you give to a young lady who was trying to start her own business? Not necessarily the green chemical store, but any type of business.
Well, I have mentored a couple of women to get their business certified with the Women's Business Council of the Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
And Women's Business Council of the Southwest is a fabulous group of very professional women, and they will also, with the same paperwork, it's a lot of financial paperwork that you have to turn in.
Mm-hmm.
They will get you your Texas State Hub, that's historically underutilized business, and your federal WOSB certification. So that gives you 3 certifications with 1 filing, and they're a fabulous just fabulous networking group. So if your business needs to appeal to the corporate level, there are corporate members of the business council, and they have all kinds of networking events and partnership thing where everybody can meet everybody and presentations. And I would encourage any female business entrepreneur, if her business is 2 years old, go for certification with the Women's Business Council Southwest. They will help you.
Okay. All right. And we learned a lot when we were taking that training. But what was one of the biggest things you took from that?
I've thought about back on that here recently. I think it was knowing that I was already on the right path for personal growth.
Yes, yes.
That and then I wasn't in it alone. That I had already picked the right insurance programs. I had already done the right things for legal. Everything was a validation of what I had already done for the business. And for some reason, the program came to me for that reason. And then meeting another group of women entrepreneurs, being in the women's veteran area, and then there's the women's veteran entrepreneur center down on Lancaster by the VA. That's another fabulous group of women entrepreneurs. So I just love hanging around in the women entrepreneur groups.
Okay. And because so many of us are out here doing it alone, and I'm in the same boat. I'm learning. I'm starting to connect. But like I said, I never thought I had a business till I figured out I had a business.
Right.
Till I got that first letter from the state of Texas saying, "Here's your business taxes. Tell us what you sold, so we can tell you how much you owe us." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I'm a business."
So what we think in our heads is not necessarily so true. Somebody else will point out to us, and that's what our groups do for us. Is like, oh, I see you doing. They're seeing us through different eyes, and then vocalizing back to us what's really going on, and that lifts me.
Yes,
that's why I stay out there to do my networking. There was the Executive Women's Forum that I attended as a guest just to check it out. I felt a little bit overextended on my time to be part of them, but I remember sitting in the room as each of them went around to talk about their business. These are women that are working 16-hour days, 6 days a week, and I'm going, oh, I thought I was the only one doing that, and I'm not. I just felt so good about what I was doing because I wasn't by myself. There were other women doing it too.
Oh, trust me.
And surviving, and they could get their hair done and put their makeup on to show up for an event. It's like, oh, I get it. I so get what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning there are a lot of us out there putting in some hours, getting our names out there, getting our business out there, getting our products out there. But you've been doing this for a while, and I could just imagine you going down into the basement and meeting heads of maintenance and looking at what their facility had and coming up with the needs assessment of what they needed. So you've got to have come like an extremely long way from when you first started this.
I have thought back on that. That is true, and I have thought when I was away from the chemical business for that couple of years, when I came back to my husband's chemical company, I realized the reason I could conjure up the green chemical store was I made a terrible employee. I was not good. I wanted, like this should be going on and that should be going on, and nobody's opening the mail, and yeah. So I would raise my hand and open my mouth, and anyway, so I was meant to be doing exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. But, I'm learning, like I keep saying that, because I've always been a good employee, but I'm now learning to be a good business person. And it's taking me time.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking me effort, and it's taking me, as you said earlier, networking. And I have to keep understanding I have a great platform here
Mm-hmm.
to do that, to network. And yeah,
Everybody would want to be on your show if they knew what it really was. Yeah.
yeah, like you called that day and said, Mary, I don't think I have anything to talk about. Oh my goodness. The show, we have 10 minutes left, and it doesn't even feel like it, does it?
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And that's just a limiting belief. Once again, we need to step out of our heads.
Yes. Now, you were talking about your staff earlier. Would you tell us a little bit about them, give them a little bit of a shout out? Because I know you have some great folks.
Oh, thank you so much for being able to do that. Well, I hired my husband's admin accounting gal. So Liz has been working for me since October of 2016, just a couple, 3 months after my husband passed. And she's just fabulously dedicated. She calls the business her baby. And, she works those hours that I don't think she should be on the laptop, because I see when the messages come through, but there's no stopping her. She's just such a lovely, lovely, soulful single mom.
Mm-hmm.
And she put herself out there to help my daughter close down my husband's business after he passed, where she could have easily, having just gotten a divorce, bought a home, and was a single mom. She had no guarantee of employment, and she stayed with us as a family. So I'm ever so grateful to her. And then a year ago, I met, 14 months ago, Miss Energetic, Creative Heather came into our world, and she's the best operations gal. She handles all the logistics, orders processing, our marketing. She's launching our new website. Just great energy that she's putting into creating what we need to have. I'd never be able to do it without them. I really wouldn't. I would be so bogged down and so overworked and stressed. They make my life easy and pleasant.
Well, hey, and they've stayed with you.
Yes, they
So
like it
that's
there.
that's a
I think they
testament
like it there. Yeah.
to what you're doing, and I'm quite sure y'all all take care of each other and
True.
everything.
Yeah, very true. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, hello, Stephanie. Hello, Cynthia. I had a couple other people who've popped up, but you have to think of it. After a while, when you have a small business or a personally owned business, those people kind of become a part of you.
They do.
And
Yeah.
they're going to
Yeah,
take care
they
of
do.
you. You're going to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but with everything, being, I'm not saying you're small, but how in the world do you traverse all of this big metroplex that you do? Because you say you've got Waco, you've got Wiley, you've got Dallas, and I know you're probably up in Plano and Irving and.
I am. I'm all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Well, I don't get to spend as much time in the field as I would like to at my customer sites, which drives needing the sales help. But my indoctrination into the business was full-time.
Yes.
Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30, I was out making sales calls. And I just come from an industrious lot of people. And that's what you do. You don't stop until the day has ended. It wasn't about cutting out because I had freedom.
Yes.
Out there with my time. I always felt somebody was watching. I would have to do the right thing anyway. So, my indoctrination is just, or training is just being out there. That's what makes sense. Actually, I think it's been hard for me when I'm not out there to run the inside of the business, because I have the pull to be back out there. So I just see as many people as I can. Of course, we have technology now. Texting is the most interesting little tool. on getting people to respond to communicating with you. Sometimes I don't even need to go by because the text message worked or the email worked. So then I create technology days, like I specifically have to sit at the
Oh,
laptop and be on there for 4 hours to handle outflow of sales work or text messaging. Yeah, instead of me showing up, because it's hard to drive around the Metroplex with the
yes.
kind of traffic that we've got.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
it's
it
getting
doesn't.
worse.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to do all of that, especially in this heat. But anyway, and then we're going to get a really cool customer retention management system, and we're going to refine how we approach the customers for appointment making with that.
Yeah.
Lots of new plans for
And,
sales.
and I like what you just said, the technology days, because there are days that you just need to sit and communicate with people. I mean, even myself, I have to sit and communicate with the people who are going to be on the show, the people who are buying the books, the people that I'm going to be going to visit. And I think right now, my true one day that I take for me is the day that I volunteer, because that is like it's not something that I'm having to do for either of these things. It's my thing.
Makes sense.
And I so enjoy it. But so you told us about what's up and coming. You've told us a little bit about your market and your people. We've got 2 minutes left. Is there anything you want to share with our guest as far as your the oops, my brain keeps stopping. The Green Chemical Company, or being a woman-owned business, or just being a mom because you have children.
I do. Well, it's not about doing it all, but like you've said already, sticking to your true skill sets.
Yes.
And if you have an entrepreneurial drive and spirit and an idea, it's not going to die. You're going to have to keep it alive. Don't let those in your life get in the way of pulling the trigger. Don't go it alone.
Yeah.
Reach out, seek those that have gone before you to get some good advice, and don't go to the whiners and the complainers and the naysayers that are going to talk you out of it. Go to people that are going to lift you up and help you see your vision, that you have it. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. Like, if you can think about it, then you can have it. Like what I, taught my daughters is, if it's in your head and you really want it, you can have it.
And that's the truth. And that is so true. You have to get out there and you have to be in there. You have to be involved. You can't run a business from your bed, because a
No.
lot of people, things are going to come to me. And
You're making me remember when I got certification, or I was going to the seminars for NCTRCA, and the lady that was doing the seminar training, she kept saying, now you've got to go out and work your business. You've got to go out and sell your business. You got to get out there. And I kept thinking, why in the world does she keep talking like that? What are people doing? Then I realized this was back in the day where most of the time businesses would wait on getting a fax for a purchase order to come in.
oh yes,
And that's what people were doing, was they would get their business certified and then sit at the fax machine and wait for the orders to come. And I go, really? That's possible? It didn't even occur to me that would be how somebody would operate a business. So you've got to get up and move.
yeah. You've got to get up. You've got to get out. You've got to talk about it. And when you have a specialty business such as yours, you don't have a lot of people in the market like you, but you have a lot of people in the market that need what you have, and they won't know that you're out there unless you're out there.
That's true. Yeah.
And that
That's
makes
true.
that
That's
makes
true.
a huge difference. And I'm learning so much because I go back to a lot of our training. I'm trying to think of what things are supposed to be in my area that I'm supposed to be doing, becoming a vendor for the city and stuff like that. Who would have thought that, oh, as an author, I need to be a vendor for the city of Arlington? You wouldn't think of things like that. And so there are things that I'm slowly starting to do and filling out paperwork, because I've only been truly on this journey since about March, and it's not hard because of the training that we got. But
So then for you as well, maybe a certification with the regional
yeah,
folks, the NCTRCA, which is right here in your neighborhood, puts you on the map with municipalities, DART,
Yes.
Austin Commercial, Baylor Healthcare System. You're going to be surprised how they need somebody. You're an author, so that says you're a writer.
yes.
They're going to use you for that.
So, well, hey, I am so excited. I am so thankful that you came on my show today.
Thanks for the invitation.
And, we'll be following you
Okay, thank you.
and posting you if you have anything wonderful that's going on, anything that you go out to and you want to share. Please share it with me so I can share it with my audience.
I'll do it, sure.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry we're coming to a close. We have been talking today to Miss Mary Bruce, owner of the Green Chemical Store in Dallas, but she's telling us she's all over the place. She's not just in Dallas, she's in the Metroplex. And, love to have her. And I'll be back next week with All About STEM Radio here on the Blue Stream again from 6 to 7 p.m. Bye-bye. Till next week.